Daggerheart. Daggerheart. Campaign 4 is not Daggerheart, and I am confused. Come, Mr. Mercer Man, explain this choice to me. Daggerheart, come, and it's not Campaign 4. So, wow, this just came out of freaking nowhere, and I was wrong, guys, and I will be the first to admit I was wrong. This makes no sense to me, but they have announced as of 10 a.m. this morning, Critical Role Campaign 4, run by the genius that is Ryan or Brian or whatever his name is. What's this guy's name again? The guy who doesn't know how to do Brandon Lee Mulligan. Brandon Lee Mulligan, the man who does not have to do basic math, is running Campaign 4. It is not set in Exandria. It is set in a brand new world that he openly admits is a clone of Exandria. Mercer will not be running. He'll be playing, which shows a lot about Mercer's inner thinking regarding Daggerheart. And despite all evidence to the contrary, Campaign 4 will be using a Dungeons & Dragons 2024 heavily modified by Crawford. So we have a guy who hates the history of the hobby and can't do basic math, and a guy who hates the history of the hobby and can't run a company, both in charge of Campaign 4. Meanwhile, the guy who has made Critical Role what it is stepping down to be a player, and he seems to be okay with Campaign 4 being Dungeons & Dragons, 2024 Dungeons & Dragons, modified, and not Daggerheart. Now, I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can. Because for over a year now, I've been saying Campaign 4 would either be a transition from Dungeons & Dragons into Daggerheart, which it still might be, or Daggerheart, because having it be D&D from a business point of view makes no sense, because that still gives wizards some control over your product. But if you make it all D&D, 100% yours, all Daggerheart, it will be yours. You have complete control over it. Letting wizards have any touch into it, especially with Crawford involved, dilutes the water. Now, right now, as of now, Daggerheart is the #1 selling product in the hobby. It has blown D&D out of the water. Recently at the last convention, it sold out 4 times. 4 times. Every person that was carrying Daggerheart directly or indirectly completely sold all their copies, had to go get more copies. Those sold out. So it's everybody and their dog is simping to Daggerheart. You would think that if you have a Ferrari and that Ferrari is the #1 selling product you have, and everybody in the industry is supporting that Ferrari, and from all points of view, that Ferrari is the best machine you've made. Well, to my stupid brain, it makes sense that the car you race in 2025 and 2026 is the Ferrari. Not go backwards and run an Edsel. Hey, all our competitors are running top-of-the-line sports cars. Let's run an Edsel. Let's run 2024 D&D. This doesn't make sense to me, and they don't explain why. So I can only spiral some hypotheticals, and yeah, I don't know. Okay, so first let's go controversy hypothetical. Controversy hypothetical number 1. Controversy hypothetical number 1. The only way Darrington Press could get Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins to come leave Wizards of the Coast and come work for Darrington was some backwards deal where Darrington agreed that Campaign 4 would be D&D, so they could, Wizards could milk the last bit of that in order to get them to leave Wizards and come to Darrington. So that's the only way they could get them. Okay, Campaign 4 will at least start as D&D 2024 with Chris and God help us, Crawford having heavy influence into it. Because that's what it says. It says campaign 4 will be Daggerheart, Dungeons and Dragons with modifications from Crawford and to a lesser extent Perkins. We also have a complete rundown of the staff. It's a whole bunch of people we've never heard of. We'll get to that in a second. So I can't do basic math. I'm Brandon Mulligan. I hate D&D's history. I should be in charge of it. Critical Role. Derp, derp, derp. So yeah, conspiracy number 1. This is the only way they could get Crawford and Perkins to come work for them, is if they agreed that campaign 4 would at least start with 2024 Dungeons and Dragons, heavily modified by Crawford and Perkins. Controversy theory 1A. Campaign 4 is going to be Dungeons and Dragons 2024 because Wizards is going to sell Dungeons and Dragons 2024 to Darrington Press. Now, there's been a couple people who have bubbled up this controversy, this theory, and in some sense, it kind of makes sense that would be it. You know, Wizards has said they don't think Dungeons and Dragons makes them money. They're not going to push Dungeons and Dragons the game. Why not let a company who has shown consistent profit be in charge of the franchise going forward? That would make, most of the buttons pushed, and Wizards could focus solely on Magic the Gathering and video games until Hasbro shuts it down in 2030, which you were wrong, OGGM. You're a fucking idiot. At least I admit when I'm wrong. And yeah, I'm wrong, because I was predicting this for over a year now. I've been saying it'll be campaign 4 will either be D&D into Daggerheart or Starters Daggerheart. So controversy 1A, this is basically Wizards handing D&D over to Darrington Press, and sometime by next year or the year after that, they're going to just give Darrington Press Dungeons and Dragons lock, stock, and barrel. This is a conspiracy theory. I have no actual proof that this is true. So please do not say this is true. This is a theory. I'm not the first person to gestate this theory. A couple other people have said it over the past year, especially since the announcement of Crawford and Perkins, that this was part of the process of Wizards shuffling D&D over to Darrington. Okay, controversial theory number 2. Matt Mercer does not have enough faith in Daggerheart in order to have Daggerheart be the main campaign of his group. Matt Mercer does not have enough faith that Daggerheart can carry the show forward, so he's going to have it be D&D 2024, at least in the beginning. Now, there's some math in that theory that would make me think it's partially, at least some way, correct. I'm not the first person to suggest it. Several other people who are way smarter than me have suggested it. So yeah, that Mercer doesn't feel Daggerheart can do it. So he's not only stepping down as DM, not only having somebody else run the game, not only have a whole bunch of new people come in to take over the game so the old staff can step down, but he's saying, no, I don't, Daggerheart can't do it. Run D&D. It's guaranteed numbers, which, yeah, D&D 2024, at least on paper, would make sense. Daggerheart is an unknown variable. D&D 2024 is everybody knows what it is, right? So you can just say it's Dungeons and Dragons, heavily modified, and we know what that is, as opposed to what the hell is this Daggerheart thing? Don't know. Conspiracy theory 2A, Brandon Lee Mulligan can't understand Daggerheart, so he said, I'll do this if you let me run D&D. It's what I'm known for. It's what I'm used to. It's what the audience recognizes. I've proven I can't do basic math. Thaco is hard. So let me run D&D 2024 because that's my brand, and it helps me, and it helps you guys, and Wizards of the Coast gets their cut, and we're going to make more money. And they're like, yeah, okay, you can't handle the complexities of Daggerheart. So sure, D&D 2024. Those are all controversies. in reality, it's still, to my unbelieving mind, it does not make sense to have campaign 4 be Dungeons and Dragons, especially 2024 Dungeons and Dragons, when Wizards of the Coast just posted that 2024 Dungeons and Dragons is not making them money. The audience is not as big as you think. 28% loss from Q1 to Q2. 28% loss. 28% of Dungeons and Dragons 2024 is not selling. So you have built yourself up as the Daggerheart company. You want to put all your eggs in Daggerheart, pushing Daggerheart forward, showing your iconic cast with your iconic DM playing Daggerheart, saying, this is the product we have faith in. This is the product we're going forward with. We know our fans trust us enough that they'll come along for the ride. And we know that our competitor has a huge amount of negative publicity associated with it that we don't want to be associated with. But instead, they're saying, fuck you, Daggerheart fans. We're sticking with what's safe. Dungeons and Dragons. Controversy theory number 3, which goes back to my very first theory. It's going to start as Dungeons and Dragons with modifications from Crawford and Perkins. It says that in the article if you don't believe me. And then slowly over time, transition from Dungeons and Dragons 2024 into Daggerheart as more and more of the rules that are modified, because again, it says they're using modified rules for 2024 D&D. And there's another bit of this that leads me to even further believe this is what it's most likely going to be. You start running D&D 2024 with a cast you recognize and a bunch of secondary members who are lesser known. Get to that in a sec. As the year progresses, you use a campaign frame that slowly transitions from Dungeons in 2024 into Daggerheart. So by the time campaign 4 ends, they have completely transitioned into Daggerheart, which, if we go back to my original statement when they first announced Daggerheart, and I suggested that campaign 4 would be Daggerheart, my very first theory, my very first prediction was that's how they would do it. They would end campaign 3 with an apocalyptical cliffhanger, and campaign 4 would somehow explain the transition from Dungeons and Dragons to Daggerheart. Now, let's go into why I think this is still possibly on the board. First, let's look at the cast. And I'm sorry to announce to a certain individual, your crush, Orion Akabara, is not on the cast. Once again, Orion is not anywhere, shape, or form on the cast. I'm sorry, Scott. I know. But yeah, okay. So let's go. We got the usual gang. We got Laura, Taliesin, Ashley, Liam, Marisha, Sam, Travis, and Matt. Then we have a whole bunch of names I don't recognize. Luis Carrozo, no clue. Robbie Diamond, that one actually sounds familiar. Abrea Illinger, why would you associate yourself with her? Whitney Moore and Alex Ward. Don't know who any of those people are, but I guess they're dungeon tubers, whatever. And Brandon Lee Mulligan as the DM. So we have a staff of about 13 people. That's a lot of people for anybody to run as a DM, especially if you're involving schedules and filming it on a set and all the other things with actors and stuff. To get 13 people to all sit down every week to run this 2 to 3 to 4 hour thing and then do all the post stuff, that's a lot of work. But no, don't worry, because it's not going to be a normal campaign. It's going to be a West March style campaign, because I don't have enough faith in myself to actually run a real campaign. So it's going to be a West March campaign, which means I'm not going to do a lot of work, but I'm establishing, the way a West March works, where we're going to have an interchangeable group of players. So if this person isn't there, that's okay. If Ashley isn't there, because Lord knows Ashley's usually always filming something, that's okay. because it's not a character-driven campaign. It's a world-driven campaign. It's going to be factions and open-ended explorations, no meta plot, except there is a meta plot according to what Brandon says. So theory, that would go with my theory. Slowly, the old cast withdraws. We see more and more of the new cast, more and more new faces associated with a new format. We start with the tried and true boys and girls, and one by one, we slowly replace them. And if, Sam isn't here, that's okay. It's a Westmarch style campaign. If Matt can't make it because he's working on something else, that's okay. It's a Westmarch campaign. If all of the classic cast is overseas doing a convention, that's okay. It's a Westmarch style campaign. And because it's a Westmarch style campaign on a brand new world, Brandon doesn't have to do a lot of work. He just has to set the framework. Okay, so this is what Brandon says about the new world. Where does it say? Okay, so the new world takes place on Arman in a West-style approach to gameplay. For those familiar, a Westmarch approach is one that prioritizes exploration of the world and player-driven narratives. No, it doesn't. It prioritizes world-driven narratives that the players can choose to be a part of or not. It offers the players much more agency in their gameplay than other approaches. Brendan Lee Mulligan reveals the Westmarch's campaign style is effectively a shared world with more adventurers than there are player characters that can fill a table in one session. And also on the storytelling level, it really maps out the form of fantasy storytelling that people are intimately familiar with, know, and love. No, well, I'm going to disagree with you on that one, but okay. And the world is a conversation with Exandria. So basically it's Exandria, but he's ripped it off and he's done something new. And it's more of the story about the mortals with their relationships with the gods and the gods' relationship with the mortals. What is a relationship to divinity that would be based on the sum, logic, and principles of everything we know and love about Exandria? Because I'm not capable of having an original idea. But what if those things made a radically different choice? So in this world, we see a decision where the gods put themselves and their role above the mortals. Isn't that what they did in Exandria? Wasn't that the whole point of Campaign 3? And the mortals responded by declaring war on the gods. So, yeah. And now that leaves us with a world with 70 years later, and we're dealing with chaotic magic. Questions about the afterlife. Where does a soul go if the god of souls isn't there anymore? And are the gods really dead? And what role would the players have to do with this? Well, they're cast into this, this god divine post-apocalypse. And they're boiled down the storytelling into 5 parts. Swords, conflict, family, relationships, death, magic, and kissing. I don't know how those are 5 fantasies storytelling arcs, because none of those are the 5 fantasy storytelling arcs. There's only 5 stories you can tell, and there's only 32 ways you can tell them. Okay, none of them is kissing. But okay, I think it's going to go on paper that I have less faith in Brendan Lee Mulligan as a player and a DM than I did in Matt Mercer. And Matt Mercer definitely grew in my eyes. I appreciated more, but Matt Mercer only works with the staff and the cast only works with Matt Mercer. So having somebody else do it and having all these new faces doing it, and what's this? It looks like a picture like you're already been filming something, but that can't be, because we're going to watch it live, right? You're not pre-filming and pre-editing this, right? Because it's not scripted. Blink, blink, blink. We don't know anything about the characters. We're going to have soldiers, schemers, and seekers. So casters, rogues, and soldiers. We're going to have Miss Controversy here and some other people. So you've already filmed this? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And it will give us a world that we can see through different faces and different tables and mixes and matches with a lot of people. The soldier table is going to be all the people who are interested in a traditionally charged combat and conflict-driven story mode, where the non-violent answers were few and far between. The seeker are the people that tie directly into lore, cosmology, magic, big questions around problems facing this universe that are and weave into the dance between divinity, arcane, and magic, and blah, blah, blah. And the schemers are the people who are into intrigue, espionage, and, you know, manipulation. So we have these three groups that are going to intermingling and, you know, changing up. Maybe 1 week it'll be these three people and somebody else, and maybe a different week it'll just be a bunch intermixing and matching. Because it's West Marches, we're going to also like have more than one character each. And other stuff. And it's going to release in October, but it looks like it's already filmed some of it. So, and you can watch all of it on, you can watch all the old stuff on the Critical Role channel, our beacon. So we've got West March, which means I'm Brandon Lee Mulligan. I don't have to do a lot of work. I don't have to design someplace if they're not going to go there. I just sort of have a quasi blank map. I have one local meeting point, a watering hole. I have a couple factions that toss out quests and jobs and hints. Everybody has something maybe in their background that they want to investigate. There's an arc about what happened to the gods and how the world is going crazy. And can the players do anything to change that? Do they want to do anything to change that? Do they care? Or do they, you can't have a preset idea with a West March campaign, Brandon. You can't have an overarch. Okay, the whole point of West March is there is no overarch. There is no big bad. There is no 5 things you have to do to fix the world. Okay, that's the antithesis of what a West March is. A West March is there's a lot of stuff going on. And there's a lot of people who are involved in a lot of stuff going on. And some of this stuff might affect your characters. Some of this stuff may never affect your characters. Some of this stuff might be going on in a part of the world. Basically, it's the real world. A West March campaign is the real world. I'm only interested in what affects me and what I'm interested in exploring. And if I work for somebody and they tell me to do something, well, okay, I fit that into my personal whatever. But I don't care what's going on in Alaska. I'm never going to go there. Right? What do I care if there's, an increase in UFO sightings? I'm never going there. Doesn't affect me. If there are increased UFO sightings down the block, that would affect me. So yeah, to put it in real term voice, West Marches is kind of just real life, except with, superheroics. A faction that you want to associate with might ask you something, but there should not be an overarching story. Because what if the player characters in West March's style go, well, fuck that. I don't want to have anything to do with that. That's dumb. I want to go and kill some goblins. I want to build a castle. I want to, monopolize the honey trade. So there we go. That's all we know. It's not Daggerheart, which again makes no sense to me. It's modified Dungeons and Dragons 2024 with influence from Perkins and Crawford. So it's not going to be 2024 D&D as written. It's a brand new world with a very vague storyline about dead gods. It's West March. We've got 13 players who are going to mix and match. And we've got a DM who's not in any way, shape, or form associated with Daggerheart. So again, you have the #1 selling role-playing game in the world right now. Everybody and their dog is talking about Daggerheart. Hundreds of channels have switched format to push Daggerheart. And anybody that is shilling to Daggerheart has seen their views double, triple. Daggerheart is the current favorite flavor. You've got a brand new campaign starting. Here's a chance to hook new people, to show them how well your car runs, and to show them that you're no longer associated with all the negativity that is Dungeons & Dragons. Because let's face it, Dungeons & Dragons is a controversy engine, and Dungeons & Dragons sales suck right now. And people are just kind of done with Wizards. And Wizards has made it clear they're done with people. They're making a crochet book, for God's sakes. They don't care about D&D. I've talked about that in another video. So everything points to you taking Campaign 4 and running Daggerheart. It's a new world. It's a new DM. It's a new staff. Use the system. Show the world how much faith you have in Daggerheart by putting Daggerheart as your franchise carrier. Well, the first thing you do is you have the guy who is associated with the 3 campaigns, considered the best DM in the world, and he says, I'm not running Campaign 4, which to a lot of us says either I'm tired, which would make a lot of sense, or he doesn't have faith in the future of Daggerheart. So he's handing Daggerheart to somebody else. And then that somebody else suddenly says, oh, I'm not running Daggerheart because we don't have faith that our fans are going to jump on board unless it's D&D. That's what our fans know. That's what our fans are comfortable with. Sales be damned. D&D is still the anchor despite the controversy that we need to go forward, which I 100% disagree with. This is a horrible mistake that will stab them in the back. They will regret this. The fans will turn on them. Because you're telling the fans, we do not have faith in Daggerheart. I, Matt Mercer, do not have enough faith in Daggerheart that I'm going to be running Campaign 4 using Daggerheart. I'm stepping down, letting this idiot run Campaign 4. And this idiot just said, oh, I'm not using Daggerheart. Fuck Daggerheart. I'm using D&D 2024 because I hate the history of the hobby. I obviously don't know what Brandon Lee Mulligan actually thinks, other than he's, can't do basic math. Yeah, I know D&D. I'm a D&D guy. And Crawford and Perkins are over here going, yes, do D&D. I know we came over here to work on Daggerheart, but yes, do D&D. That makes no sense to me. That makes no sense that you would you have your thoroughbred and you have, well, this horse was good a couple of years ago, but the thoroughbred we got to put faith in the thoroughbred. We got to show people how much faith we have in our engine, in our game. And how do we show people we have faith in Daggerheart? The Daggerheart will be the game you want to play and buy by not running it. So, controversial theory number 1, there was some backwards deal between them and Wizards. And enough money changed hands for them to go, it is more cost effective for us to run D&D because the win outweighs the controversial lose. And that was the only controversial theory 1A. It was the only way we could get Perkins and Crawford to come over is if we agreed to have Dungeons and Dragons 2024 be the forefront of Campaign 4. Or, as some people have suggested, Wizards is planning on handing D&D to Darrington Press. Because we know Wizards doesn't have any faith in D&D 2024 anymore. They've said so. Their words, not mine. So let's just hand off this problematic title to somebody else, like we did with Power Rangers and Transformers and G.I. Joe, and focus on what is making us money and not getting us in trouble. So here, you take D&D. You do whatever you want with it. Take Perkins and Crawford. We're going to focus on crochet. That's an interesting theory. It definitely would make sense financially. Controversy, number 2 is what, like I just said, the lack of faith that Mercer has. He doesn't think Daggerheart can do it. Or, and mind you, I am just spitballing here. I have no actual proof. And we can already see that I was wrong. All right. So my prediction was Campaign 4 would be Daggerheart. Well, actually, my original prediction was Campaign 4 would start with D&D and slowly progress over to Daggerheart. So by the time Campaign 4 ended, it would be 100% Daggerheart. And that's how you connect the old fans to the new fans. So let's just, again, stew that for a second. Campaign 4 starts as D&D 2024 with rules modifications, with the staff we recognize, but without the DM we recognize. So already we've got a little uncanny valley here. Something's different, but it's still all the faces we recognize, still all the rules we know. We have faith because this is what we're comfortable with. And campaign 4 starts. And then, because it's automatic, it's already built into the story, things are unpredictable, things are changing, things don't work the way you think they should in this new world. We've got a whole bunch of new faces who are going to mix and match with the established faces. And as time goes by, you might see more of the new faces than the old faces. Got a new world with a new DM. And the rules are written that things are not what you think they are. So you think this is D&D 2024, but slowly we convert it to Daggerheart. So by the time campaign 4 ends in 4 years or whatever, it's 100% Daggerheart. And that makes a lot of sense. It guarantees that the existing fan base stays loyal. We love D&D. We love C1, C2, and C3. We understand D&D. You're doing D&D. We love it. Here's a bunch of people we recognize. And we finally get to see Matt as a player. And here's this guy who can't do basic math. Okay. And then, oh, hey, that's a new rule. And the Daggerheart people are like, hey, they're also doing Daggerheart. That's a Daggerheart rule. Oh, hey, it looks like they're using more and more Daggerheart and less D&D. And the D&D people are already like, I'm hooked. I don't care. Oh, they changed something. Don't care. What are those cards? Don't care. I'm hooked. This doesn't look like D&D anymore, but I'm hooked. And then slowly, you change one rule after another rule, always with that overarching, things are chaotic. Things don't work the way you think they do. This world isn't what you think it is. So by the time campaign 4 ends, oh, it was Daggerheart all along. That would be the only choice that makes sense to me. And the most logical choice. The next most logical choice is it's part of the deal to get Crawford and Perkins that there had to be some kowtowing to Wizards of the Coast and at least starting campaign 4 with Dungeons and Dragons heavily modified. Or if some rumors were to be believed, and again, mind you, there's no facts. There's no basis to this. This is 100% controversy. Hasbro's going to let somebody else take over D&D. Why not be Darrington? Did the same thing with a lot of other titles, and it seems to be working. Here, you take it. You're problematic. We're problematic. The system's problematic. You take our problem. We're going to focus on what isn't problematic and makes us money. Peppa Pig. And the third is that just, Matt doesn't have the faith in Daggerheart. Matt doesn't have the faith in Brandon. Brandon Lee Mulligan doesn't have the faith to run a Daggerheart game. It's too complicated. And it's what the fans know. And the bottom line is the fans know D&D. The fans are comfortable with D&D. The numbers of Daggerheart are amazing, but they're temporary. Are they going to be like this in a week, a month, a year? Don't know. I don't think so, but don't know. So although I was wrong in that campaign 4 was going to be 100% Daggerheart, maybe I'm not as wrong as I think. Maybe campaign 4 will start as Dungeons and Dragons and then slowly become Daggerheart. I don't know. Again, did not see this coming and does not make sense to me until I think about it. And then maybe it does. What do you think?
Roll the dice and ride the wave. Quest and dragons, the news we crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards